Do you find that there are certain types of students or certain populations that are more likely to thrive in the micro school environment?
Yeah, there's two populations that you'll see that are really starting to go into micro schools. Number one is the neurodivergent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kids that don't fit into the traditional system. And even though our special education classes, teachers are doing their best, a lot of times it's not working for that population, right? So that's been, there's a lot of neurodivergent students attending micro schools. And the other one, interestingly enough, is the African American community. So there's a large percentage of parents, especially, that are tired of the school system and what's happening with their children in terms of results and racism and all the things that happen. So that's a pretty big, a large group that's growing pretty fast too.
Those are welcome developments for sure. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine there are some folks out there who would say that a school environment that takes you out of sort of the traditional education pipeline could disadvantage some students, say in the college application process, or maybe they're not being regularly tested, so we're having trouble measuring outcomes. Are there any things that you're seeing in the micro school movement to try to address those concerns?
Yeah, so there definitely is a movement of people trying to consider and create some sort of assessment systems that could be more, uniform across the space. Like, again, being led by the National Microscope Center. Like, let's talk about if it's portfolios or if it's standardized testing, if it's a norm reference test. Like, what are we doing so that we can put out data? And I know that the center actually talks about how kids in microschools typically, advance in 1 year, like 1 to 2 years in terms of academic achievement. They advance more than a kid in traditional school. Because if you think about it, it's like more personalized, right? And so they're getting that. And
Yeah,
that's another myth that,
you
like,
get to
oh,
go at
people,
your own pace.
yeah, you get to your own
Yeah.
pace, so you're going to do better. And,
Mm-hmm.
people will say, like, oh, how do micro schools do well academically when, it's just like a bunch of kids in a room? But shockingly, it's actually the opposite. You get a bunch of kids in a room, you get 8 of them and one adult, even maybe not a trained teacher, but especially with a trained teacher, you're going to see like really good achievement and things doing well in that respect.
Wow, that's quite interesting. I mean, how about in the college application process? Are you
Oh yeah,
seeing
the
anything
college
there?
application. Yeah, what we're seeing there, and I think this is kind of new, normal for. I was in the charter space for 20 years, and we had the same situation. I was in a charter high school, and our first graduating class was 2007, and we had to do tons of education for the universities they were applying to. We were a college prep charter school, so we wanted our kids to get into college, and we actually had 96% of our kids get accepted to a 4-year college. But what we had to do was like reach out to the university admissions and say, like, hey, this is a charter school. You're not going to be able to use your normal formulas of like a 2 to 4,000 student high school. So similarly with the microschool space, that's going to happen. But what people are doing in the interim is they're using the homeschool. There's like a homeschool application you can do. So most
Mm-hmm.
universities will set aside homeschool applicants, and they typically love those applicants. So they're excited to get applicants from applications from homeschool families, because it's just a kind of unique applicant. So if you're like in a micro high school right now and you're like, oh, I'm worried that my kid's not going to get into college, there are many ways around that.